Sonic Generations. This was a game I never played at the young age of 7 years old, when it released back in 2011, although I did try it on my PS3 last year when my PS5 disc drive broke, but I never got further than the first boss. I decided to pick up the remaster of the game after the new Sonic 3 movie released. Now, this usually isn't the type of video I would upload, but I've been mega hyped up over Sonic recently and really wanted to do something about it. So without further ado, let's rank each of the Sonic Generation stages, starting with Green Hill Zone. So I always see people whining about Green Hill Zone being in many Sonic games, but I personally have always loved the simplicity and familiarity of it. And Act 1 of Sonic Generations featuring classic Sonic is exactly that, by having parts of the level that are similar to the first Sonic game, which I know is kind of the point of Sonic Generations. But anyway, honestly, when it comes to Green Hill Zone, I haven't got much more to say. It's just a fun stage with easy alternate routes, and a perfect start to any Sonic game. I think this version of Green Hill Zone is a solid start to the game, and one of my favourite overall classic Sonic levels, which is why I'm going to put it at an A tier. Before the video continues, I would just like to say this list does change later, and also this is the first time I've ever done a review type of video. So don't hate me for Green Hill Zone temporarily being an A tier. Now, on to Act 2. I once again don't have much to say about this act, to be honest, because what I liked about Act 2 is still the simplistic, easily recognisable Green Hill Zone we all know. Despite being simplistic, as I say, it does still have its cinematic moments, like the giant chomper mini chase or the many grind rails across the act. This stage has minimal routes though, with just the odd fork in the road. As I say, Green Hill Zone is a good beginner level in my opinion, and I enjoyed Act 2 almost as much as I enjoyed Act 1. Which is why I'm going to put it behind it, but still in A tier. So, usually, I'm not really a fan of Chemical Plant Zone, apart from the music, of course, which slaps. But after one or two runs, Act 1 grew on me. With its classic tubes and fun chemical slide, this stage is mostly fun. Mostly. I say this because the thing that always annoys me with Chemical Plant is the underwater type areas, but I can kind of overlook them in this case, as they're easy enough to avoid, or you can equip the athleticism skill to make you move faster in said areas. So taking this into account, I don't really mind this version of Chemical Plant Zone. Do I like it more than Green Hill Zone though? I'm really not sure. I think I do prefer it over the modern Sonic version of Green Hill, so I'ma stick it right in between that and the classic stage in A tier. I do like Act 2 of Chemical Plant Zone, but I do have one question. What are these pipes for? You can jump and run along them, but they feel slow and pointless. Okay, so I just went back to the game and tried them both. This left one is definitely faster, and the right one is definitely slower. Anyways, where I was going with this is there are so many alternative ways to go throughout this level, and there is, once again, a fun chemical slide, which is an absolute W. Same thing goes for this level about the underwater type areas. They're annoying, but I can deal with them. I really like the ending of this level, even with this annoying ass zipline shortcut, followed by this also annoying ass grind rail shortcut. Overall, I hate to say it, but I think this act is also in A tier. Sky Sanctuary Act 1 is kind of forgettable for me. That's mainly because I don't have many good or bad things to say about it. To be honest, my only two things I really hate are the stupid clouds, although they are a unique addition, are a little tedious at times, and this silly spinning platform is just that, silly. I really like the ending to this level too. The way it splits into 3 pathways on a falling tower is sick, although I did always die to the platforms in between. I know this act is a quick one, but I'm going to put it at our first B tier. Once again, I don't love and I don't hate Sky Sanctuary Act 2, but it's not my favourite course. And it's not my least favourite course. After playing Act 1 to the stage, this act is pretty much what I'd expect the modern Sonic version to be. I know I said the last level was a short overview, but this one's even shorter, as the only part I can even note disliking is the crumbling floor section, where I'd always fall. Speaking of falling, this act falls in line with its classic counterpart as a B tier. Speed Highway Act 1 is the act that made me reconsider where the previous levels fit into my tier list, but we'll get onto that later. I really enjoyed this level's aesthetic and level design. Having classic Sonic run through skyscrapers and hitch rides on rockets and helicopters to get between them is a really cool concept. The techno-y music to this act really complements the Mega City vibe, although it doesn't quite beat Chemical Plant Zone's banger music. This is something that works really well on all the classic acts, but the 3D background on a classic platformer level works especially well in this case. I love how the background even mixes in with the course at some points, like where you dodge cars that come down the road towards you. I do kinda wish this was done more often, however. As I said, this is the act that made me rethink my tier list, so I'll come back to this one after we go through Speed Highway Act 2. This is another course which I really like. I love how in this act, instead of the roads and skyscrapers mostly just being in the background like in Act 1, where you kind of just jump along random city-looking floating chunks, you instead actually run across, up and down them. Now I know I said I really enjoyed this level's aesthetic and level design about Act 1, but Act 2's is so much nicer and works so much better, probably because you interact with the city more in this stage, like I explained. I enjoy the alternate routes in this act, like the helicopter at the start for example, which I always missed. Combining this with everything else I've noted, this stage is a solid A tier in my eyes. But wait! Surely I don't think Green Hill is as good as Speed Highway. That's exactly what I think! No, I'm just kidding. Please, put away your pitchforks. I decided I didn't want this course in S tier, but also didn't want to lump it in A tier with Green Hill and Chemical Plant. So I put Green Hill in the middle of the list at B tier as a midpoint because something described as simple twice shouldn't be as high as it was. Chemical Plant I also changed to B tier with Green Hill, this time above it there. And Sky Sanctuary I put down to C tier, just because. I don't know why, I just don't really like these levels. Anyway, on with the video. City Escape Act 1 is the classic take on the goated stage from Sonic Adventure 2. Another game I haven't played. In fact, you know what, this stage can wait. We're looking at Act 2 first. The reason I skipped Act 1 is because I'm just going to say it. City Escape Act 2 is the first S tier level on this list. Literally the only nitpick I have with this level is the intro, where you float down to the streets from the heavens. I know in Adventure 2 there's a whole scene where Sonic's all like, talk about low budget flights, no food or movies, I'm outta here. And then he falls down to the street. But I kinda wish the start of this level at least showed the gun helicopter flying away afterwards, just to keep at least some of the context. They also replaced the helicopter piece with a random, drippy surfboard. I spent way too long focusing on that one aspect of the level, holy. But speaking of surfboard though, this first section of the act, 10 out of 10. It's such a nice change of pace surfing through an area instead of running. To stop focusing on the city surfing section, let's talk about the short and sweet platforming part. Well, that's all I have to say about that, seeing as it doesn't overstay its welcome, unlike some stages. The end of this level is also unique, with the big ass truck chasing you through to the end of the course, where it eventually hits a building and explodes. The remix music to this level is an absolute banger too, although I do think the original music is better suited to the stage. So back to Act 1, I'm just going to do a quick summary of this stage, seeing as I nattered on about Act 2 for so long. Although it gets rid of the surfboarding section at the beginning, it does have a skateboard power-up towards the end, which I'm glad about. It also keeps the truck in this stage, although this time it's more of an obstacle, especially this part. And I'm going to be honest, I don't really like this remix of the music. Overall, I don't think this level is an S tier, I'm not going to lie. But it does make me regret saying that Green Hill Zone is one of my favourite overall classic Sonic levels. Because as the video goes on, I realise how much better acts are when you don't have to collect rings or do annoying ass challenges. So I'm going to put this level an A tier with Speed Highway. Seaside Hill Zone Act 1 unfortunately suffers the same fate as Sky Sanctuary, where it's not exactly bad, but not really good either. It's also the same situation as Chemical Plant with the underwater parts, where I can get over myself and deal with them. I do like all the possible ways you can go around the middle of the level though, and I really like the end where you're chased by a large wheel. It really doesn't take much to please me, huh? You know what, times are wasting. I'm just gonna stick this in C tier with Sky Sanctuary and be done with it. I know Seaside Hill is another version of Green Hill, so I should like it. but overall, I don't. I think it starts out promising, but loses steam after this short platforming section for me. I do really like these 3 loops though, where you can choose which way you want to go. Although, the best choice is obviously to drive the car for yet another good change of pace. While it's no Sonic racing, and the car is probably the slower route, I would take it over the jumps between the turtles any day. My main problem with this act comes just after this choice. This indoor platforming section through to the end of the zone, I hated it. The entrance, the slow wall jumps, and these moving walls, I don't know why, it just got on my nerves every run. I do really like the music to this level, however. It gives off a cool beach holiday vibe to suit the beach temple twist of Green Hill. And once again, I enjoyed the end section with the spinning wheels as obstacles. So I know I've talked a lot of crap about this level, but it really isn't as bad as other levels in the game, which is why it really wouldn't fit into D or E tier. So instead, it's joining the last act in C tier. Because these next 2 acts are some of the lowest ranked levels on my list, I'm going to rip off the bandage and tackle them both together and hopefully quickly. So Act 2 of Crisis City is second to the bottom at D tier, whilst Act 1 is getting the privilege of having its own spot at E tier. So, Crisis City. What a level, am I right? When I played Act 1, I knew the majority of people didn't like the original act from Sonic 06. Or just 06 in general. But I held out hope anyways because I like the theme of the act being a crumbling, lava-ridden city. It's just too bad that the more time you spend in either act, the more you never want to touch them ever again. I've always hated it in any game when enemies and obstacles are perfectly placed in your path off-screen to where you are guaranteed to hit them, and that happens so much in Act 1 and 2. The platforming areas in the modern Sonic stage is so slow with tedious jumps which causes it to last way longer than I would like it to. There's hardly any options for alternate routes in either act, and the ones that are available are more so shortcuts via jumping on enemies rather than actual different ways. In both acts there's a platform I'd always jump on just to always get hit by fire. For Act 1 it was these moving platforms, and for Act 2 it was this fire monster which always perfectly attacked when I landed. The suspenseful music kinda reminds me of Bowser's Castle, which is fitting for a level based around fire and destruction. I'll give it that. And now, for the single worst part of both Crisis Cities. The Fire Tornado. It may be cool, but not only does it take away my frames, but it also takes away my will to live. Twice. What's that? You like the ability to make precise jumps in an entirely platform-based level? Too bad. Oh, you like getting sensory fucking overload by a million things going on your screen at once, causing impossible to dodge projectiles. You're welcome. Okay, I can almost feel my blood boiling, so let's move on to 2 acts that fall at the opposite side of the spectrum. I'm probably going to be a bit biased with this act for reasons which will be cleared later. Although parts of this level peed me right off, I can forgive them for the stage being an overall banger. The music to this level once again perfectly captures the cheery town theme. Combining that with the confetti floating around the air makes me lose focus at times due to the chill vibe it brings to the act. I love how much is going on in the background too, with all the balloons, airships and other things I'm just now noticing. Just going to quickly mention the clock tower and Eggman airship attack for the ending of the stage. It feels fitting for a stage called Rooftop Run to end at the top of a tower and taking out a flying machine. Anyway, there is probably more I could say about this level, but I really want to get on to Act 2, so I'm going to put Act 1 at an A tier so that we can move on. Finally, I've been waiting to talk about this act for so damn long now. This course is my single favourite level in the entire game. In fact, Rooftop Run isn't an act or a course or whatever I've called other stages. No, this stage is straight up vibe. The music is flipping amazing. Combined with the confetti, once again, really brings out the cheery town atmosphere. Everything about this act is just so vibrant, bright, and colourful, which makes it like eye candy to look at. Sonic Unleashed is another Sonic game I've not played, as I was more of a Pokemon and Mario kid, but playing this stage alone makes me want to buy, download, and platinum the game. Okay, that may be a little bit extreme, but it's such a beautiful course, and a breath of fresh air in between 2 absolute stinker acts. The only part I even mildly disliked is where these spiky barrels are thrown at you, which, to be fair, I probably only struggled with because I just spam boost through and tank the hit. Dodging lasers up the clock tower followed by spiraling towards the ground surrounded by hot air balloon is just full of the exaggerated swagger of a blue hedgehog. I'd literally seen nothing on this act prior to Sonic Generations, by the way, so pressing the play button on it and immediately being hit by Sonic adjusting his gloves with the beautiful background and celebration-esque music hit me like a truck of dopamine. The level design of this stage does a really good job of making the town look actually lived in, using wide roads with fences on the edges that can be used as grind rails, and the really thin alleyways between houses and stalls. The end to this level where you attack the airship with its own robots while dodging lasers is yet again really satisfying, and as I mentioned with Act 1, it's a really well suited way to end Act 2. I don't even know if there's a point in showing you where this absolute vibe sits on my tier list, because you already know how much I like it from all the glazing I've given it, and just outright saying it's literally my favourite stage, which is why this stage is obviously S tier. I'm going to do these next two acts together as well, because they also kind of suck ass, I'm not going to lie. Just like Crisis City, hopefully we can get through Planet Wisp pretty quickly. I think both Act 1 and 2 start out pretty promising. The light green fields with wisps floating around, tall trees surrounding you, and colourful plant life mixed in is pleasing to look at, and the music on both acts brings it all together nicely. As soon as you get past these starting fields is where the level goes downhill for me. Saying this though, there are already enough grassy stages in the game, so having a factory level does switch up a bit. Going back to the music, it really doesn't suit the factory area, as it feels more adventurous than industrial, if that makes sense. Although Act 1 does kinda have an industrial feel to it, I do like the addition of wisps to the level, as they are a part of Sonic's history, which is what Sonic Generations is supposed to be celebrating, but the wisps they chose to add are just so damn bad and kinda basic. I really didn't play much of Sonic Colors, as I started it just before Fortnite OG, which took up most of my time, so I just never came back to it. The reason I bring this up is because I literally do not remember anything about the wisps, and I'm solely relying on YouTube gameplay and reviews to form an opinion on good and bad abilities. The Spikes Wisp controls horribly and is also just more of a nuisance at times. While the Rocket Wisp I really don't have a problem with, it's just kind of basic compared to other Wisp abilities that could have been in the game. These levels are a good final challenge to the game at least, and there is an absolutely mental amount of alternate routes too, which somewhat adds to the challenge. There are two obstacles in these two stages that got on my nerves every time, these being the saw blade arms and rockets. I like the ending to Act 2 where you ride on platforms then smash through ceilings that are about to crush you. Honestly, I think what ruins these acts most for me are just the wisps, but at the same time if these acts didn't have wisps, they wouldn't be as unique as what they are. Certain parts of Act 1 I just found to be more so tedious than challenging, which was mainly influenced by the Spike Wisp. The fact the courses are the two longest in the game, which I clocked in around the 5-minute mark, also does it no favours in my eyes. But anyway, I do want to finish this video sometime soon. So finally, the last two ratings. We have Act 1 at a D tier, above Crisis City Act 2, obviously. And finally, we have Planet Wisp Act 2, also at a D tier. Again, above Crisis City Act 2, obviously. And that's the video. Honestly, some of the acts on this list I probably marked a little harshly, but the way I've done it is by going off my enjoyment with Green Hill versus my enjoyment with whatever stage I'm looking at, which is why I'm glad Green Hill ended up in the dead centre. I did actually go through lots of different initial draft lists, but this is the one I'm happiest with, I think, so this is the one I'm sticking with. So after 2 weeks of on and off editing, it's complete. If you made it this far, I hope you enjoyed and would consider liking and subscribing. Leave a hate comment down below if I've slandered your favourite act, or a comment of your own list that you've made. I had a blast making this video as it's so different from the video I'd normally make, and I'll probably never make another one like this. Unless this video gets 20,000 likes. No, I'm joking. Mostly.